fossil evidence is sparse, but honeybees are thought to have appeared on the planet around the same time as flowering plants, between 146 to 74 million years ago. Before tectonic shift, the landmass that was once Eurasia had a tropical climate. When the Ice Age hit, honeybees migrated to the warmer climate in southern Asia. When the ice melted around 14,000 years ago, the bees returned to Europe and its new terrain of rich forests. We as humans have utilised bees for as long as the history books date back. The oldest honeybee hieroglyph goes back just before 3000 BCE, when Egyptians used honey as a natural sweetener and as an antibacterial medicine. There is also evidence of Egyptians using beeswax for painting and embalming. We need bees for survival. They are a vital part of the planet's ecosystem. Not only are they the main pollinator for crops that we rely on for food, but are also responsible for the pollination of 80% of our wildflower. Without bees and their pollination, our ecosystem would simply collapse. There are over 25,000 known species of bee globally, with around 270 recorded in the UK, with only one of these being the western honeybee. Honeybees are what we call social bees. Living in hives, they possess the ability to create wax and form the comb that they use as a space to lay larvae or house honey. Honeybees' anatomy is entirely different to that of solitary bees, who live in pre-existing structures and holes. This anatomy gives honeybees the ability to produce wax and honey, alongside their complicated array of intricate methods of communication. The honeybee's role within the hive is determined by the sex of the spawn. A male drone's sole purpose is to mate with queens. If they are successful in mating with queens, it kills them. Larger in size than workers, their intimidating appearance is false, as they do not possess stingers and are somewhat defenceless. Therefore, drones are outnumbered by workers at a ratio of about 100 to 1. The female young become workers. The workers start as cleaners who maintain order within the hive, quickly moving on to feeding the young and the queen. As they age, they progress through different responsibilities, from wax making to handling the honey, with the final duty being foraging for nectar. Workers are armed and ready to fight, with their stingers being their method of defence. Workers are positioned at all entry points to the hive, ready to ward off any predators. Within a hive, there can only be one active laying queen. Laying up to 1,500 eggs a day, the queen can store up to 6 million sperm in her spermatheca, ready for the fertilisation of her eggs. Honeybees have a wide array of communication methods, ranging from body movements to releasing pheromones. These well-adapted traits are what allow them to hunt down rich sources of nectar and form swarms to relocate to hives at other locations. The anatomy of honeybees is dependent on the sex of the bee. The build of workers is complex, with glands that secrete wax to build the hive, separate honey stomachs, and muscles that beat their wings up to 230 times a second. It is the worker's anatomy that gives them the ability to create honey. There are many different structures used for hives, usually dependent on the method of keeping being used. Vertical Langstroth hives are commonly used in commercial keeping, as they make the honey harvest easier, some even locking the queen inside to avoid swarming. Alternatively, horizontal hives are used as a less invasive way of housing honeybees, an often preferred structure by natural keepers. Beekeeping methods vary, be it scale, level of interference, what methods are used to calm the bees, and most importantly, what is done with the honey. Honeybees are under constant threat. With colony numbers reaching all-time lows over the past decade, we need to do everything we can to boost the number of colonies. Colony collapse disorder occurs when the majority of a hive's worker bees vanish, meaning the colony eventually collapses. One of the main contributors thought to cause this is the use of pesticides on local crops. One small step to solving this problem is to stop using insecticides and neonicotinoids on crops and gardens. Another way to help increase the number of honeybee colonies is to start a hive at home. With information available at the click of a button, it's never been easier to read up, educate, and start your own. And finally, the easiest way to help our bees is by starting a bee garden at home or within your community. By supplying the honeybees with flowering plants all year round, it ensures they have a constant supply of pollen and nectar to keep them fed and healthy. It is time to start educating, spreading the word, and watching out for our honeybees. If we continue on as we do now and numbers deplete further, it won't just be our honey stocks that crash. Our entire ecosystem will suffer.